Member for Guadja.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Attorney-General. Attorney-General, you have completely botched your anti-discrimination bill. During estimates, you said you'd consulted widely on it. Clearly not true. Last week, you wrote to stakeholders saying it would be passed this sittings. Yesterday, after significant backlash, you pulled the bill. You claimed it was because you had a full agenda this sittings, even though we've already run out of legislation today. Then you said it was because you needed to consult with stakeholders. Attorney-General, why did it take you until yesterday to acknowledge how unhappy Territorians are with this dodgy bill? Why did you lie about your consultation, and why didn't you send it to your own scrutiny committee in the first place, where everyone would have been able to have their say in an open and transparent forum?
Attorney-General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the question. And I want to be really clear about what this is all about and why we're doing it and what's actually happening. The reason why we're here is because back in 2022, Labor stripped the protections for religious schools and our parents who have their children that's sent to religious schools. And so at the time, the CLP promised that we would restore religious freedoms, and a lot of work has been done in that time over many years, but especially in the last 12 months, where we have been consulting very closely with those religious groups. And Madam Speaker, what the Labor opposition is not telling people is that we actually did reach a consensus with those religious groups as late as last week, where we thought we had found some middle ground in terms of protections for the parents and the kids that want to send their children to religious schools, so that they could have the same faith teachings in those schools, but also protect Territorians against discrimination. We found a middle ground. And yet, at the very last moment, I find out that the religious schools are not happy with that. They had national attention weighing in, saying that they weren't happy with this agreement that we had reached. And so, Madam Speaker, we cannot go beyond what we said we were going to do, because what they are asking for is far beyond the realms of what Territorians expect. We need religious freedoms and the right to be able to teach children in schools, but with protections against discrimination. And so we're not going to budge from that. We are going to take our time on that. We are going to meet with the groups again who are not happy with the way in which we originally agreed together last week about this. So I make no apologies for this, Madam Speaker. I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush this. It's too important for Territorians. It's important to the thousands and thousands of Territorian families.
Take your seat, please. Minister, what's your point of order? Member for Guadja.
1-0 relevance. I've asked you a series of direct questions. 1, why didn't you send it to a scrutiny committee? 2, you have said in this House that you didn't bring it because your agenda was full. Can you acknowledge that you lied? And there are more community groups than just the religious. Why are you shutting important community groups out of this consultation?
Okay. So, Member for Guadja, you've now asked the question twice. It's up to the minister to answer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to be really clear. This legislation was very squarely designed to protect Territorian families who choose to send their children to a religious school, a school of faith. They want to know that they can send their kids there and they will be taught the religious beliefs that they have in their families. They want that choice. That is why this is so important, because Labor ripped those protections out of the Anti-Discrimination Act 2 years ago and left them high and dry with no protections whatsoever. We have sat down with those groups. We consulted heavily. They told us what they wanted. We all agreed. Then they said at the last minute, no, actually, you haven't gone far enough. We want those to be further protections for things that are just outside of the sphere that Territorians really want. So I'm going to go back to those groups. I'm going to sit down with them and work through how we can make this work, how we find the middle ground, so to ensure that all Territorians are protected from freedom of speech, from religious groups, but also from discrimination.
Honourable members, I advise of the presence in the gallery of Defence personnel from Joint Operations Command, accompanied by their captain. On behalf of honourable members, I extend a warm welcome to you. And also in the gallery we have Mr Ned Hargraves, Senior Warlpiri Elder. Welcome to Parliament House, Mr Hargraves. Member for Goyder.
My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, this week has seen the commencement of the much-talked-about OC spray trial. It's been a topic of great interest in the lead-up to Monday's rollout, and I know that many in my electorate and in my own family are incredibly grateful for this initiative. In fact, plenty of our constituents right across the NT have already gone out and purchased the spray, with some stores selling out, reflecting the strong community support for this trial. Can you please update the House on what this trial means for the safety of Territorians and how it fits into the broader strategy to empower individuals and enhance community safety across the Territory?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Goyder. I know you're a tireless advocate for your community, and I know you've received overwhelming feedback and support from the good people of Goyder who believe they can be trusted, who believe that the individual freedom and that individual responsibility are very, very important parts of any society and any community. And I commend you for the work that you've been doing, because this is a really big step forward. And Madam Speaker, time and time again, we've said we cannot deliver different, better outcomes for Territorians if we don't try different things. And the OC spray trial is a really important example of that. And certainly the spray has been flying off the shelves at the firearms dealers. They've been very, very pleased with how the rollout has gone, and we've been working very closely with the firearms dealers about making sure this is a really well-regulated process. And I think people will be very interested to hear some of the feedback that we've got directly from them about how the last couple of days has gone. We've seen the average age of people purchasing OC spray is around 47 years of age. It's the vast majority of people purchasing OC spray have been mature purchasers, and I think that speaks volumes about where this policy lands and how important it is to the community. The most common size has been the small 45-gram canister. It's about a 50-50 split between men and women purchasing the OC spray. And that the feedback the firearms dealers have been getting is that people have actually been saying as they purchase it that they feel much more comfortable having the OC spray, that now they're not going to bring a screwdriver with them anymore or have metal poles or put deodorant in their handbag or use wasp spray. So we actually saw a pattern of behaviour in Territorians under 10 years of Labor who drove crime through the roof, and people felt desperately unsafe, that people were having to arm themselves with things like metal poles and screwdrivers, Madam Speaker. And I think we've all spoken to people in our community who go to sleep with all sorts of things next to the bedside table because they felt so desperate under a Labor government that wasn't listening to them. And so now those other things can be replaced by legal use of a resource that will support their safety. A lot of the feedback has been that people are using it, will intend to use it for dog attacks, and that they've been the victim of dog attacks. And certainly the rollout has been really smooth. I just want to commend police. A lot of the feedback we've gotten from the firearms dealers is that when there was one issue with one of the iPads, the police were very, very quick to fix it. Of course, we've had very quick responses from our police on people who are doing the wrong thing. And so the rollout will continue, Madam Speaker, but we've been really clear this is about additional layers of personal protection, and we trust Territorians to do the right thing.
Opposition Leader, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister, the Minister for Police. Minister, you ordered an independent inquiry into executive appointments in the NT Police Force back in March this year, some 7 months ago. You said this inquiry would give certainty to police and the community and officers involved. Minister, can you please advise Territorians whether you have received this independent inquiry report? If so, why haven't you released the findings to provide certainty that you promised to police and to Territorians? And Chief Minister, why are you yet to appoint a police commissioner some 6 months after sacking the last one?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the opposition leader for her somewhat misguided question. But no, I do not have the Blow inquiry. I've been very clear right from the start that Justice Blow will have the resources and the time that he needs to do that work after the NTPA raised concerns around senior executive positions. We moved very quickly to listen to their concerns and then put in place Justice Blow. It certainly has taken a lot longer than I expected, but I've been very clear that that is a matter for him and it has to run its course. It is, by its very nature, an independent inquiry. Now, Justice Blow has also been busy doing other things, and Matt right trial being one of them, which I think everyone is well aware of. And so I will absolutely commit, as I have in the past, that when I receive that, it will be made public and we will move forward from there. But until such time, that just needs to take its course. There is nothing that can be done in the intervening period. I've also been very clear, you cannot have a new police commissioner when you have the Justice Blow inquiry outstanding. So one precedes the other, and that process just has to run its course.
Member for Casuarina.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for Corrections. Minister, please elaborate on how the CLP's Youth Boot Camp program differs from the criticism made by a member of Gwaja, who described it as merely a 3-day excursion. Additionally,
Silence,
Minister,
Member for Gwaja.
can you please outline how this initiative integrates with broader long-term strategies for youth rehabilitation and prevention that address stability, culture connections, and life skills development?
Minister for Corrections will be heard in silence.
I thank the member for Casuarina for the question, because now he likes to break the cycle of offending, something the previous Labor government failed to do. Their strategy was just lock them up. So, Madam Speaker, this is all about rehabilitation,
Silence.
and which is what the other government failed to do. And let me give you a classic example, Madam Speaker. They had a program called Back on Track. It ran for a number of years and cost taxpayers about $35 million. $35 million. And, Madam Speaker, can you guess how many people finished that program? 35. 35 people finished that program. That's about $1 million per person. So, Madam Speaker, it clearly shows that they didn't want to break the cycle. All they wanted to do, Madam Speaker, was spend taxpayers' money. Unlike us on this side, Madam Speaker, we're about rehabilitation. We're about breaking the cycle of offending, and that's what this program is all about, Madam Speaker. This program is about letting these young offenders go to school. Go to school and then go to boot camp on the weekend. So unlike the failed previous Labor government who took these kids out of school, we know these children have disadvantage because they don't go to school. And that's maybe one of the reasons why they end up in youth justice. And this previous Labor government wanted to take them out of school, take them away from education and put them out there and do a boot camp, Madam Speaker, which clearly didn't work because the cycle didn't break. Madam Speaker, our program is designed to allow these young offenders to attend school during the day, and then on the weekend they go out and they do a boot camp program. And there's various different types of programs, Madam Speaker, and these young offenders can do multiple programs. They can go out on one weekend and do a work readiness program. They can go back to school during the week, and then the next weekend they can go back out and do an outdoor leadership program. Madam Speaker, then they go back to school, and on the next week they can go back out again and do a fire and emergency response. This is about getting these young offenders to break the cycle, an opportunity to go to school, learn about what it takes to reintegrate into the society, rehabilitate, and then come back into the community better people, Madam Speaker. So this approach aims to redirect them towards more positive pathways, helping them to prevent into more serious behaviour, which is what the previous Labor government wanted to do. They wanted to take these young offenders out of school. Take these young offenders out of school, Madam Speaker. That is just disgraceful. And spend about $1 million per child taking them out, Madam Speaker. If you can tell me, Madam Speaker, that is successful in any way, I will sit back down here and not stand up again, Madam Speaker. But it just shows how the previous Labor government failed these young people. They failed to look after them, failed to rehabilitate them, and they failed to spend taxpayers' money wisely, $35 million for 35 children. Disgraceful, Madam Speaker.
Member for Gwaja, you are on a warning. Member for Fatty Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Attorney-General. Attorney, 1 year ago, Territorians elected the CLP government on a clear mandate to turn around the Territory after years of Labor's neglect and reckless spending. Since then, the government has introduced Declan's Law, the strongest bails laws in the nation, and committed to putting victims first. Territorians want to know that these reforms are making a real difference. Can you please update the House on the results of our stronger laws and what they mean for our community's safety and confidence?
Attorney-General.
Thank Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Fanny Bay. I know that your community have victims in that, and they also want to be really safe right across not only the Fanny Bay but the rest of the Territory. And Territorians absolutely asked for action, certainty and security, and that's what we are delivering. Since Declan's Law came into effect in January, more than 3,300 people have been refused bail. That's an increase of 44% compared to when Labor was in with their weak laws. Declan's Law is the reason, Madam Speaker, that more serious offenders are off our streets. That's why they're safer. Justice is also moving faster, Madam Speaker. The average time on remand is down to 136 days, but that is still too long. Way too long. But we are moving in the right direction. It is 7% faster than what it was under Labor. And for the first time in years, sentenced prisoners outnumber those on remand. And the results are clear, Madam Speaker. There are now 605 fewer victims of crime compared to this time last year, this time under Labor. Territory-wide crime is trending downward, with house break-ins down 31%, territory-wide, robberies down 29% and commercial break-ins down 16%. But we've always said, Madam Speaker, we will have more work to do. We are only just getting started. With the crime statistics trending in the right direction, though, businesses will become more confident to invest, families will be more confident just to live their lives, and the results are starting to be seen. The Territory now leads the nation in population growth and the fastest economic growth in Australia at 10.2%. Territorians want to enjoy the lifestyle that makes our home unique, from fishing to festivals, Luxes for breakfast, as the Chief Minister says, or owning a pet crocodile. Declan's Law is delivering real results. Crime is trending downwards. Confidence is returning, Madam Speaker. But like I keep saying, there is so much more work to be done, and with our whole team of a CLP government working together, we will make sure that we keep making this place the best place to visit, live and invest.
Member for Gwadja.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for the Prevention of Family and Domestic Violence. Minister, in March this year, yourself, along with the Commonwealth Government, announced $13 million in funding for frontline domestic violence services under the National Renewed Partnership Agreement on Family, Domestic and Sexual Violence. Minister, can you confirm that the Northern Territory is the only Australian jurisdiction to not deliver its plan to roll that funding out to frontline services? And if it is, why haven't you delivered on this critical plan?
Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, I'm not sure where the member for Gwadja gets his information. Maybe he just reads it on the back of a cornflakes box. But funding that has been delivered...
Take your seat, Minister. What's your point of order, member for Gwadja?
Order 31. That is offensive language. I've asked a question about...
No.
I have asked a question...
Member for Gwadja, please take your seat. There's nothing offensive about what the minister just said. In terms of offensive, that is at the very lower end of the range. Please continue, Minister.
We're only talking about DV.
No. Member for Gwadja, silence, please. Member for Gwadja, you can leave the chamber for an hour, please.
You happy? All laughing? Think it's a joke?
Leave in silence, member for Gwadja. Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think one of the key points about that national funding is that, very sadly, it was a significant reduction on the previous agreement, which has made it very challenging to see how we can ensure that all services continue to be delivered. And we made a commitment, Madam Speaker, that all of those services that were being funded up until the end of the 24-25 financial year would continue into the 25-26 year, so that with the additional funding that we've provided, $36 million a year ongoing into the future for as long as we need it, we can make sure that the services that are required will be delivered. The services that are funded in that space, the frontline services, are absolutely critical. There hasn't been a single service that has stopped. Every service is continuing. We are continuing to work with it. I'm really pleased to say, Madam Speaker, that those services are also working with the Department of Children and Families to develop our new framework and our roadmap forward to ensure that we have a system that is responsive, that is able to change according to demand, that we continue to support those victims, survivors of domestic violence, and that we can see going forward that we will absolutely start to change the flow of this terrible, terrible situation within our community. We have made sure, Madam Speaker, that where the money is needed, it's where it will go. There is support. There's safe and supported work being done. There's family supported work being done. There's monies provided to assist people to have innovative ways in which they can help and assist victims of domestic violence to move into safer spaces. We have the opportunity...
Take your seat, please, Minister. What's the point of order? Opposition Leader.
Standing Order 110, in terms of conciseness, I believe the question specifically asked the Minister, is the Northern Territory the only jurisdiction that has not delivered on the domestic violence plan, and if so, why not?
Minister, you have a minute to go. It's your
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. So every single day we deliver on the plans that we have in place, that we continue to work with the funding that has been provided both at a Commonwealth level and from the Northern Territory Government. We are absolutely making sure that we are delivering on our commitments. We are absolutely making sure that services receive the funds that have been committed to them. But we're also making sure, Madam Speaker, most critically, and the thing that was missing significantly from previous efforts in this space, that there are really clear outcomes that are outlined to services and clear expectation about what we expect in that funding service delivery. We need to make sure that where the dollars are spent, we get the absolute best value and the best support.
The clock hadn't started.
That's true.
About a minute and a half ago.
No. Just sit down for a minute, please, Opposition Leader. Can the clock be corrected? I think we're probably 30 seconds into one.
That's right.
1 minute.
Just answer the questions. I'm happy for the minute to keep going.
Okay. What is your point of order? If it's relevant, sit down and let the Minister continue. Minister, please continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I could have kept talking for another minute. I would have been happy to do that. The funding commitments that have been made, the funding that has been agreed to, the programs that we have agreed to put in place are being rolled out. They are being funded. The services are there. As I said, there was a massive funding cliff that was being faced by most of those servers at the end of the 2025 year, and we fixed that. We've committed to keep funding those services so we can work with them and make sure we get the best possible result for victims in this space.
Member for Daly. The government
you,
had
Madam
2 in a
Speaker.
row. Now they get 2 in a row.
It happens. I've been in that position. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education. Minister, you attended a special purpose meeting of Education Ministers last month where the NT Government was the only jurisdiction that failed to commit funding or identify initiatives to improve child safety in early childhood and care settings. Following horrific revelations about instances of abuse and neglect in childcare centres in southern jurisdictions, why isn't the CLP government doing more to ensure safety and quality in our childcare centres are at the highest possible standards for the sake of Territory parents and children?
Minister for Education and Training.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Daly for the question. Yes, I did go to the Education Ministers meeting a couple of weeks ago, and some of the outcomes of that, in light of the fact that we have seen some horrific, absolutely horrific things happening in the early education space, what I can tell you is that we are moving in. There are things that we are doing federally, like more checks on centres. We are also, there's a trial next year for CCTV cameras across centres, and we are actually doing something in that space, member for Daly, We've committed to do more compliance checks and also add more compliance people to the team. That is, Madam Speaker, one of the very important things. But in saying that, for the rollout of the facilities, the centres to do the CCTV, what we know, Madam Speaker, is that no amount of CCTV cameras actually takes off active watching of these young people in centres. And so what we need to make sure is that, you know, there are compliance checks right across, and national compliance checks will be had and done across the sector. And I think that's really important to make sure.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Take your seat, Minister. What's your point of order, Member for Daly?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 110 relevance. The question was also around funding. Why didn't the CLP government commit any funding to any of these initiatives at those meetings?
Member for Education, you've got the call. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And there is $189 million of federal funding to the early education sector, and this is rolled out by the federal government. As I've said, the NT government is going to be putting more people out there to do these compliance checks across the sector. There are many centres across the sector, Madam Speaker, that have not had compliance checks, some of them for 7 years. There are a number of them.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Member for Daly, you've had two. This better be good, otherwise it will be disorderly. Please continue.
Yeah, no, it is relevant. It's 110 relevance. I appreciate the Minister answering around the federal funding. The question was around the Northern Territory Government's funding.
Please, Minister, continue. No more points of order.
Thank you. And obviously the member for Daly doesn't like the fact that what I'm pointing out, under his government, some of these centres had not seen compliance checks for many years, Madam Speaker.
Okay,
so,
silence.
what we are making
Silence.
sure on this side of the House, they were the previous government. The opposition leader was one of the education ministers in that previous government that decided that that would be okay to not do compliance checks for a very long time across some of these centres. So what we have committed,
please.
Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we grow the number of people in the sector that will do compliance checks and make sure that those centres are safe.
Member for Blaine, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, during the election campaign, I, like many of my colleagues, heard the community loud and clear. People had had enough. Crime was out of control and residents no longer felt safe in the community or even in their own homes. We wasted no time in delivering meaningful reforms to tackle crime head-on. And while I acknowledge there's still much more to do, now, 12 months on, my constituents are telling me they're starting to feel a real difference. Chief Minister, could you please update the House on how our significant reforms over the past year are translating into real outcomes for the community? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Blaine, and I know your community care very much about community safety, as do you, and that's why they elected you, Member for Blaine, because you sat down, you listened to your community, you reflected their concerns and their aspirations for a safer territory, and they saw in you someone who represented their values and that would take action and do something about it. And I'm very proud to have you as part of the team, Member for Blaine, who has done more for the Northern Territory than what we saw for a generation under Labor, Madam Speaker. And whilst there is much more work to do, we know that what we've done so far is making an impact. And those opposite, Madam Speaker, are belly laughing about it. I mean, they should be absolutely hanging their heads in shame for what they did to the Northern Territory, for the high numbers of victims under their watch, for the fact that people were leaving the Territory in droves, including people from Blaine, in your community, Member for Blaine, because Labor had destroyed the Northern Territory. And we're turning that around. Declan's Law has been a really important part of our law reform. And we stood shoulder to shoulder with Samara Laverty, who bravely led that charge. And we've had more than 3,300 people refused bail since Declan's Law came in January, which is enormous. That's up 44%. Member for Blame. We've also expanded wanding powers for police. Labor made it so difficult for police in so many ways, and wanding for knives is one of them. We've seen over 100 authorities issued for police to be able to undertake wanding activities, which means more than 7,000 people have been scanned, removing 141 weapons from the community, which could have ended up anywhere, Member for Blaine. We don't know how many crimes that didn't happen because of that important proactive work of our hard-working, incredible police. We've also seen the number of victims drop by 4.7%. So we need that number to be bigger, but it's an indicative start to what has been a very big year of unwinding Labor's mess. But that represents 605 Territorians who were not a victim of crime in the last 6 months compared to under Labor. 605. That's less impact on our emergency services, on victims, on their families and on their communities. So it's a profound impact, and we need to keep doing the hard work and stay the course to make sure that community safety remains the #1 priority of this government and our focus. And this week in Parliament, we've given police stronger powers again with changes to the Traffic Act. We've got Youth Justice Act Part 2 to come. We've got our police public safety officers to come, Member for Blaine, and of course we've just rolled out OC spray as a trial for 12 months. So there is plenty more work to do, but we are committed now more than ever before, Member for Blaine, to continue to do everything we can to reduce crime and put the rights of people to be safe above the rights of offenders.
Member for Arafura.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, my question is to the Minister for Sport. Minister, the NTPGA Championship recently returned to the newly renovated Palmerston Golf and Country Club for the first time since 2023. The previous Labor government was a proud supporter of this event. Could you please advise the House if the government has continued this support and how much funding was given by your new government to support the NTPGA Championship?
Minister for People, Sport and Culture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Arafura, for that question. So that was actually supported through the major events. So I'll just pass it on to the Minister for Major Events to respond to that question.
Okay, Minister for Major Events.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for Sport for passing on this question to me, asked by the member for Arafura, because I was the proud Minister for Major Events at the PGA Championships at the Palmerston Golf Club on the weekend, which was an absolutely fantastic event. It went for a number of days. We had a number of visitors right across the world. Madam Speaker, you may have seen my Facebook and other people's Facebook about how the US golfers were actually at Crocosaurus Cove on one of the days doing the Cage of Death, basically experiencing this amazing lifestyle that we have in the Northern Territory, which was an amazing outcome. We had sponsors from right across the Territory come to the top end to support this PGA golf tournament. And it's interesting that Labor supported the PGA too, and they certainly did for a little while there, Madam Speaker, but they also should remember that they didn't support it last year. There was a big gap in the PGA. And so as soon as we were elected and I became the Minister for Major Events, I had the golf club knocking on my door saying, please, 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 don't do what Labor didn't forget about us. Can you support this event? So I did. But not only that, Madam Speaker, we took it one step further thanks to the hard work and lobbying of the golf club. And that is that we gave them some money to invest in exposure, live telecast right across the world on Fox Sports, on Sky, on KO. And I can tell you now, I was on one of those live crosses on Sunday and I was getting messages from a lot of people, from a lot of places. There were even ex-Territorians messaging saying, wow, the place looks amazing, it's so great. So I want to thank Tourism NT for being able to put that together with Major Events, not only for a sporting spectacular, which it was, but also showcasing all of the beautiful tourism destinations that we have right across the Territory to the globe in amazing, spectacular scenery and events and activities that go on here. I'm pretty sure, Chief Minister, we had the fireworks on that as well, which I think is a really important part of the Territory lifestyle.
Minister, please take your seat. Member for Arafura, what is your point of order?
Just specifically, like how much did you guys give the government?
Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, But Labor had saved money when they cut it the year before, so it was a really good investment this year to have the PGA back. So it probably didn't cost Territorians anything extra, to be honest, because it all works out in the wash. It's an amazing investment of Territorians' taxpayers' money to be able to put into such a world-class event, being the golf here in the top end at Palmerston, my hometown, and have it telecast not only the golf for sporting enthusiasts, but also the Territory tourism attractions that we have here. It was so amazing to see all of that. So well done to the Palmerston Golf Club. Well done to all of the people that came out and supported that event. It was fantastic, and I cannot wait for more years to come.
Member for Drysdale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Treasurer. Treasurer, this time last year, Territorians were dealing with the economic consequences of an 8-year Labor government. Master builders recorded the worst year for new home builds since records began, and no one wanted to live here under Labor's worsening crime and economic crisis. Fast forward 12 months, and thanks to the CLP's nation-leading Homegrown Territory program and this government's work turning crime and our economy around, people want to put down roots here in the Territory once again. Treasurer, can you please outline to the House how the CLP's Homegrown Territory grants have helped Territorians achieve their dream of home ownership over the last 12 months?
Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. And it's great to be able to stand up here and talk about some of the great things that are happening in the Territory. And the member's right, after nearly a decade of decline under Labor, the CLP has managed to turn around Labor's housing crisis in just 12 months, Madam Speaker. In the CLP's first year of government, we've approved almost 1,000 applications under our Homegrown Territory program. And most of those applicants, Madam Speaker, are young couples, with 80% of the applicants millennials or Zoomers. I'm not exactly sure what a Zoomer is. I don't think I'm a Zoomer, Madam Speaker. And at the time when more than 70% of young Australians believe the door has been slammed shut on them on buying a home, the CLP is stepping in to help young Territorians get out of the rental market and into their own property and become homeowners. Madam Speaker, the CLP is the party of home ownership, and the Labor Party is the party of renters. We unashamedly want young Australians to own their own homes, and this program shows we put our money where our mouth is, Madam Speaker. These young people are the future of the Territory, and I'm proud that this CLP government is doing what Labor failed to do, which is giving young Territorians a reason to stay here and building that confidence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's amazing the difference a year of CLP government has made, with crime on the decline, a faster growing economy and a government ready to help aspiring homeowners who now want to live here. With this newfound confidence, Madam Speaker, it's no surprise that the Department of Treasury and Finance survey shows that a majority of the grant recipients were influenced to stay in the Territory thanks to our program. With such strong uptake of our Homegrown Territory grant, it's clear that Territorians now see a future for them in the Territory, and our population growth numbers reflects this, with the Territory now leading the nation. Madam Speaker, with more than 200 new builds in the pipeline and counting, we want to make sure more Territorians have a chance to stay here and build their own homes. Madam Speaker, that's why the CLP government has introduced legislation in Parliament today to extend our new build grants and keep this pipeline going. Madam Speaker, this is great news for Territorians who still dream of owning their own home. It's great news for builders who want to keep on building. And it's great news for Territorians in the rental market who will benefit from a growing housing supply, Madam Speaker. With another year of the $50,000 first homeowner grants and $30,000 Fresh Start grants, the CLP is building on the success of our first year in government and giving more Territorians, especially young Territory families, the confidence to make their home ownership dream an absolute reality, Madam Speaker.
Member for Mulca, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question to the Chief Minister. Minister, almost 80 lawyers have sent you a letter stating that transparent criminal investigation requires that the police officers who restrained Kumanjayi White when he died must be suspended during the investigations. Why hasn't this happened? Why do these officers still have access to sensitive police information and follow police officers? And why are they serving legal notices to deceased family while they are being investigated?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Mulca. I appreciate the question. This matter is obviously, before the coroner, and there are processes taking place. And I appreciate very much that there are people grieving the loss of a loved one. There is, of course, communities grieving as well. But the process needs to run its course. I'm not familiar with the letter that you mentioned, Member for Mulca. It hasn't made it to my desk yet. I appreciate you've said it's been sent, and so I can't really comment much further other than to say that the various processes need to run their course, and we need to give them the opportunity to do that.
Member for Wanguri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Mining and Energy. Minister, our government has made a cornerstone commitment to rebuild the Territory economy following years of gross mismanagement and ballooning debt under Labor. Our Rebuilding the Economy strategy 2025 to 28 focuses on both unlocking regional growth and delivering for Australia. We know that the mining sector plays an enormous role in achieving these objectives, and indeed, we know that mining is our largest source of own source revenue. As the Minister for Mining, could you please inform the Assembly as to the benefits of the mining sector as a whole to all Territorians?
Minister for Mining and Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for the question, because this is such an important question, and I understand, Madam Speaker, how all on this side of the chamber really focus, as a laser focus on rebuilding our economy. We're dealing with the crime issue, and we've had success in that. I do say there's a long way to go, because the Labor give us such a shipwreck to deal with, but we have made a difference, and they are trending in the right direction. We're rebuilding the economy and, of course, restoring our lifestyle, Madam Speaker. And the mining and the resource sector and the gas sector is going to allow us to rebuild our economy, because it is an own source revenue, Madam Speaker. And I think from memory, about 25% of our gross state product comes from that mining resource sector. That's money that we get to spend, Madam Speaker, on the education system, on the police system, on the health system. So those systems I spoke about, Madam Speaker, are there to benefit the community. They don't come cheaply. They are very expensive, but they are super important. And they need money to run those. And this is what the mining resource sector does, Madam Speaker. To put simply, the Territory, especially our regions, depend on a strong resource sector, because they pay the bills. Some of our biggest employers are mines, like MacArthur River Mine, where about 20% of the workforce are Aboriginal, local people out there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we can't deliver remote services, more housing, without growing our revenue. And this is what the resource sector does, Madam Speaker. And we all know that this week is Resource Week, and there's some 800 delegates in here in the Northern Territory today, all around the world, all across Australia, talking with each other, networking with each other, talking about what the next investment is going to be. Myself have been down there, Madam Speaker. I know the Chief Minister gave a very passionate speech this morning, and there were people cheering, saying this is the sort of leadership we need in Northern Territory. This is the passion we need in Northern Territory to restore the economy, Madam Speaker. Unlike the previous Labor government, who fell down like a lead balloon, this side of the House, under the leadership of Leah Whanakiara, is working hard to rebuild our economy, to restore our lifestyle, and, of course, to keep us safe. A very, very pointed three programs that we're running to make sure that we turn the Territory around, Madam Speaker, and we certainly can't do that without growing our own source revenue. Madam Speaker, we need more mines. We need more Beetaloo to open up, Madam Speaker. We know the Beetaloo has got the cleanest gas in Australia, I think some 2% CO2. So we're talking about climate change. Well, Madam Speaker, we need to get the gas out of the ground, and we need to get into the market, because that is cheap gas, it's good gas, it's low-carbon gas, Madam Speaker. So we need to keep working hard. Madam Speaker, these is a great opportunity in the remote communities for work, for meaningful work in those communities, Madam Speaker, and that's where the resource sector does, and that's what we continue to do. We support that, Madam Speaker.
Opposition Leader, your constant chatter, I'm almost getting used to it. That's how persistent you are. Please refrain. Member for Johnston, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Child Protection. Minister, the Northern Territory has more than double the national rate of child deaths, and I understand that at least 13 child deaths have not been reviewed. Under the Care and Protection of Children Act, the Child Death Review Committee is supposed to meet 3 times a year. Can the Minister advise how many times that committee has met since the new government was formed and how this crucial issue is being addressed? Thank you.
Minister for Child Protection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Johnston. The advice is that committee has met twice this year.
Can I clarify twice in this year? Is that correct?
Member for Johnston, the question was answered. Is there any... Member for Fong Lim, what is your question?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations. Minister, small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and as at June 2024, small and medium enterprises made up 96% of all of our small territory businesses, and they're a vital part of our local communities. They create significant employment, training and apprenticeship opportunities for Territorians. Minister, can you update the House on how the government is supporting small businesses to grow, create jobs and to thrive into the future?
Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Fong Lim for the question. I know that you have a significant number of small to medium businesses in your electorate and that you are keeping connected with them and supporting them in their journeys. So I think I'm really pleased to be able to say that in that sector we are doing a huge amount of work because small to medium businesses are the backbone of our economy. There's around 19,000, I think, small business, about 90%. Small to medium businesses in the Northern Territory, and they make an absolutely critical contribution. And we are committed to growing that sector, Madam Speaker, so we can create jobs and thrive. And one of the first things that we did when we came to government, the Chief Minister announced the Approvals Fast Track Task Force. And that group of very passionate Territorians with real-world business experience delivered their report and gave 70 recommendations, as I recall, around how we could improve in that space. 50 of those have been adopted, 20 are being looked at. And the agenda really looked at cutting red tape, making it easier to access finance, providing mentoring and advisory services, and making sure that for business they could focus on doing business, not focus on filling out forms or trying to figure out which regulation they needed to adhere to or what was the right thing to do in a particular space, but focus on growing their business, focus on giving Territorians jobs, focus on encouraging people to come to live and work here. We also introduced payroll tax reforms, Madam Speaker, which came into effect on the 1st of January, and these measures make the Territory much more competitive. They are the most attractive payroll tax initiatives in the country, and they meant that for small businesses who were on the verge of growing but were a little bit concerned about that would push them into that higher payroll tax bracket, they could instead look to grow their workforce, grow their business, and most critically, we exempted apprentices and trainees. So that also then meant that they could create pathways for our kids to also aspire to becoming small to medium business owners in the future. This group of people are so innovative in what they do. Everything that we do is focused on supporting them and helping them grow. We want to make sure that as those businesses grow, that they encourage other people to come and live and work alongside them. And we're particularly keen, as the Minister for Education has said on a number of occasions, to create those pathways for our kids so they don't have to leave the Territory. They can stay here, they can have a business here, they can own a home here, with the support of the Territory Government, and we're very proud of the work that's being done in this space, Madam Speaker, and we will continue to listen to business and deliver what they need.
Member for Nightcliff, what is your question?
My question is for the Attorney General.
Attorney General, last month in your media release about the Standing Council of Attorney Generals conference that you attended, you stated, quote, "Our government acknowledges the closing the gap targets, but this cannot come at the expense of community safety," end quote. Now, I know you've said before that you don't want to hear the word evidence anymore, which is an unbelievable thing for an Attorney General to say, but given that the evidence shows that community safety is strengthened when Aboriginal people have secure housing, access to healthcare, culturally safe justice responses, and when over-incarceration is reduced, why on earth is your government framing the closing the gap commitments and community safety as being in conflict, instead of recognising that achieving those targets is essential to safer communities? Or did you mean that Aboriginal people are not part of our community?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that very strange question. And I want to make it very, very clear to Territorians that we are not turning our back on the Closing the Gap agreement. We are not walking away from all of the things that need to happen in our community. If it comes to housing, reducing crime, rebuilding our economy, we are all for all of those things, Madam Speaker. I think you should have asked that question to Labor when they were in power, because I can tell you now, those Closing the Gap targets were never being reached. They weren't being reached under Labor, and we're doing things differently now. Member for Nightcliff. We're not going to listen to what Labor had did for 8 years and failed dramatically. We're going to do things differently. And so we absolutely need to make sure that we're reducing incarceration rates under Closing the Gap. But we can't do that if we're not addressing crime, and we're not going to... The way that we address incarceration rates is to reduce crime. Less people out on our streets committing crime means less people incarcerated. I mean, that's pretty simple mathematics, Madam Speaker. And so it's a really interesting question, and I think you're trying to mix it all up, but we're actually really proud of the work that we have been doing to reduce incarceration rates, because we're trying to reduce crime, right? That's the simple fact of it.
Opposition members, please remain silent. Listen to the minister's answer.
And I also want to talk about the standing of councils, attorneys general, the meeting that I did go to, because it was actually a really productive meeting. We did talk about closing the gap, and many other jurisdictions had to weigh in on that conversation and about how we need to look at community safety right across Australia. And there's this perception that all the states are different and have different views, but it's certainly not the case. Every jurisdiction wants a safer community, and they're certainly working towards that now. So I'll continue to work with my colleagues around the country to ensure that we are doing things at a national level, but I also very clear with the people in that room that we will continue to reduce crime in the Territory by doing the things that deliver real results for Territorians. And I've spoken at length about Declan's Law, about the strongest bail laws in the country, because we absolutely need to put the rights of victims and the rights of community above the rights of offenders. And so that is absolutely going to continue along for the rest of the term of government, because we want to make sure that Territorians can live the life that they want to live, doing the things that they love to do, whether it's going down to Litchfield, whether it's going to the shops with the kids, or the markets on a Friday night like my Palmerston colleagues love to do. Those are the things that Territorians love to do, and they can't do it if we don't live in a safe community. And so I'll continue the work to do that towards not only representing the Territory at a national level, but also for Territorians.
Member for Fanny Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations. Minister, since coming into government, you've met with over 1,000 business representatives and international delegations, as well as leading 5 delegations into Southeast Asia, culminating in the first Northern Territory Investment Summit in July. I know that members of the Fanny Bay community have reaped the benefits of that investment summit, with people going to dinner at the Trailer Boat Club, the Ski Club, the Fanny Bay Super Pizza, the Cool Spud, all the cool businesses in my Fanny Bay electorate. Minister, can you please inform the House how vital this work is in paving the investment and economic growth in the Northern Territory?
Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Fanny Bay. You've nailed it. There's the benefit The people we meet with, the people we encourage to come to the Northern Territory, bring their counterparts with them, bring their families with them on occasion. They go to the Fanny Bay Trailer Boat Club, they go to the Sailing Club, they go to the Botanic Gardens, they visit our restaurants, they visit our theme parks, they travel down to Litchfield, they check out what we have to offer, and then they go out and tell the rest of the world what's on offer here in the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. And that is so critical, because it is how we will foster investment, is how we will get economic growth, it is the absolute pillar of what we've promised the Territory community in terms of rebuilding our economy. Those partnerships, those business relationships, those entries into Asia, re-engaging with our Asian neighbours, telling them that we want to do business with them, that we want to do skills exchanges with them, that we absolutely value their contribution to our territory, our community and our economy, is the absolute key to growing and driving the territory forward. Telling them about our incredible resources, telling them about the gas that is going to come out of the ground next year that will keep the lights on in this country till 23rd century. I had to add that in there, Madam Speaker. It's too much math in the afternoon. It's a long time. The culmination of all of that work in the very first NT Investment Summit, where instead of dragging ourselves down to Coal Canberra to try and convince a group of politicians that they should start looking at what we do here in the Territory, we brought them to the Territory. We had 150 delegates, Madam Speaker, from 13 different countries who came and saw firsthand exactly what's on offer, of what the opportunities are in defence, of what the opportunities are in tourism and agriculture and mining and energy. And in our gas sector again, everybody's excited about the gas, Madam Speaker. We understand, and we've worked really hard for that direct engagement, both locally and internationally, so that people know what the Territory is about, that they can see what is on offer, and that they can see here is the place to come to live, to work and invest. It gives them a direct entry, the closest entry to the Asian markets that they can get anywhere in the country. We are literally on the doorstep of 600 to 700 million people who want to do business with us, who want to come here to visit, who want to invest with us and who want to work alongside us. So we will be the hub for regional engagement, Madam Speaker, and we're very excited about what the future holds in this space.
Opposition Leader.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure, a question I thought that maybe the member for Fanny Bay would ask. Minister, prior to the election, the now member for Fanny Bay promised improving lighting and upgrades of walkways and bike paths at East Point Reserve. Since the election, there has been zero mention in the last 12 months of this promise to the people of Fanny Bay and the surrounding suburbs. Minister, can you please confirm if this is one of the projects that your CLP government has reprioritised, aka scrapped, as part of the $1 billion of funding you have ripped out of the infrastructure budget?
Minister for Lands Planning. Infrastructure and Logistics.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the Opposition Leader for the question, because I love to stand up and talk about Fanny Bay, and I sort of wonder what's left of Lawler's Labor legacy across the chamber there, what they did for Fanny Bay when they held Fanny Bay for so long. There was a bit of pork, yes, there was quite possibly some pork barrelling going on there. But I said the member for Fanny Bay works tirelessly for her electorate. She's another member that is forever in my office, banging on my door about things that matter for the people in her electorate. And yes, as I said yesterday, we'll continue with those commitments that were made during the election to help those communities and those electorates. We will continue to work hard to do those. But as I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, Madam Speaker, look at what we inherited as far as a budget went. We had debt spiralling out of control, and of course, we also had the $1.2 billion black hole left by Labor. All right, all those time-limited funding programs that they knew they had to fund but did not put them in a budget to try and hide the true fact from Territorians. They were gaslighting Territorians on the state of the budget, Madam Speaker. So we all know what that means. I'll say it again, and I said it yesterday. I'd love to deliver everything for everybody tomorrow, but I can't, Madam Speaker. We have to make priorities. The budget is only so much. So we have to look at how we spend the money that we have and how we then put it into the program so we can deliver for our communities. Now, you would think those opposite would probably understand that. We had a minister in the previous government who would have sat in budget cabinet and would have understand quite clearly how a budget works and how you actually allocate money to a budget going forward. But we know what Labor did. They were just racking stuff up on the credit card, making announcements, going out and doing press releases and putting stuff on program that wasn't correctly funded and wasn't programmed correctly. So they put all this stuff on the program, and of course, when they come to deliver it, the prices just don't match up anymore, Madam Speaker. So it's great to put something on the program today and then come back
Take your seat, please, Minister. What's your point of order, Opposition Leader?
Standing Order 110, Madam Speaker. The question was clearly, is this one of the projects that you have scrapped?
Okay. Minister, you've got plenty of time to finish your answer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought I answered that pretty clearly before. But let's have a little bit of a lesson in logistics and infrastructure economics. Okay, we've got the State Square Art Gallery. It's going to go over budget by about $95 million. Mandorah went over budget by approximately $30 to $35 million. Now, we've also got the overpass that's gone over by $100 million. Okay, so we add all that up together, Madam Speaker, it's a bit over $200 million, Madam Speaker, in project blowouts and infrastructure. I'll tell you what, Madam Speaker, and my young friend, the member for Daly, will love this one, because that $200 million would pay to seal the road to Wadeye, just in their blowouts, Madam Speaker. So let them think on that.
Opposition members, you will remain silent throughout the answer to the next question. Member for Karama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Essential Services and the member for Berkeley. Minister, a big focus of our CLP government is to rebuild the economy, which will benefit all Territorians by driving job creation, improving affordability and improving access to goods and services. One of our priorities is to foster development in the regions across the Territory, and I understand that the remote community of Borroloola in your great electorate of the Berkeley will benefit. For example,
Opposition Leader, you're on a warning.
For example, I note there's a planned $4.14 million upgrade to the Borroloola Power Station. Minister, can you outline the positive impact this important upgrade will have on the community of Borroloola and local residents?
Minister for Essential Services.
And thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Karama for this very important question, because he knows the importance of investing in critical infrastructure, particularly in regional areas. Madam Speaker, as part of our commitment to unlock and strengthen regional growth, we're investing in remote communities with a planned $4.14 million upgrade to the Borroloola Power Station. Madam Speaker, the Borroloola Power Station has an existing power supply of 1.8 megawatts, supported by three 1 megawatt generators, with several electricity connection requests, including one for the Borroloola Health Clinic, another one of our election commitments, Madam Speaker. We're investing $20 million in a health clinic in Borroloola. There's also another application from the Community Benefit Trust, Madam Speaker, to establish Borroloola Central, a new multi-use precinct which will demand power in the community, and that's expected to rise by about 58% over the next couple of years, that demand. Madam Speaker, this power upgrade is part of our CLP government's commitment to working with Aboriginal communities, something the Labor Party failed to do. We're partnering with local business organisations and the Australian Government to create economic resilience and foster development in the region. Not only will this important investment increase the reliability and efficiency of the power supply,
but it will help rebuild the economic development in that community. We are ensuring that Borroloola has the services and critical enabling infrastructure it needs to grow and improve the lives of locals. As I said, Madam Speaker, we've committed $20 million to the Borroloola Health Clinic upgrade, a new clinic I should say, and we've recently opened the $11.7 million Borroloola Sports and Cyclone Shelter. And it was good to see the member for Arafura there coming out to help our government celebrate the opening. Jointly, the MacArthur River Mine Community Benefit Trust and the Australian Government are investing $23 million in that new multi-purpose development at Borroloola. The project will include a number of commercial tenancies which will add additional pressure on that current power system. Madam Speaker, Borroloola is a strong and growing community and we are committed to delivering more services in that community. Whether it's a health clinic or multi-purpose service centre, the community will need more power, so investing in an upgrade in the power is absolutely vital. Power and Water will work with territory contractors to focus on the upgrade with local health services and businesses to ensure Borroloola future energy needs are met. These enhancements will increase the station's capacity and enable new customers to connect to the network. Madam Speaker, the Borroloola Power Station upgrade is expected to be completed in September 2026, and I want to thank Power and Water and all the residents there. And Madam Speaker, I move that any further questions be placed on the written question paper.